Crikey. We're all born bald, stupid, dribbling and incontinent, and a few decades later we return to the earth after nature finishes with us in that same state, okay? But it's what we do with the bits in between that I want us to think about differently today. Humans, and in fact our generation in particular, have convinced ourselves that we have never been a more advanced race. But I'm here to expose how this self-deluded we've become. The Homo sapien has never been more dumb. And I want us to leave this theatre later on today and spread the word to stop the failure of our species. You see, just in our grandparents' generation, mankind has conquered the air and seas and even mastered space. We've tamed other predators. We can hold the knowledge of all of mankind in a device and put it in the palm of our hand. We've invented wonders like the internet and penicillin and Nutella. And we think we're just like amazing, just because we can watch a few brothers and sisters of mankind invent this stuff for us to use and master. But actually, all these clever things that we worship and all the labels that other people give us utterly quashes our potential, because it makes us as mortals stop developing. The vast majority of human beings have finished evolving. We've ceased developing, and we've stopped reaching the potential that we were born with. So the front of this stage represents human development. So we're going to start with where we got out the trees. It's generally believed that mankind in its current form was about 6 million years ago. Over here, June 2016. Concentrate, it's science time, people. I'm using the familiar scale of 1 metre per 500,000 years. In your face, Brian Cox. What have you got that I've not? Quite a lot. So man's whooped like the dinosaurs out the Ice Age, okay? We've worked together, we've done quite well, and we've grunted, we're painting in caves. We invent fire to make meat taste so good, so up yours vegetarians, and we invent the paleo diet even before the Daily Mail did, and then we keep moving and we keep moving and we develop and we make stuff out of bronze so brilliantly we name a whole age out of it, and then almost here, we actually create our first wheel. Okay? Our first wheel is almost where we are today in the perspective of time. But if you go back to this first Fred Flintstone square stone wheel, you only have to go 1.32 millimeters to when we got so good at making stuff from that first wheel, we've whammed other wheels on a space shuttle and we can discover other solar systems. It's really cool, right? But actually it's not, because if you go from that space shuttle, you have to go, I've worked it out, I've been patient with this, I've practiced, you've got to stay here, point 0.0000000000036 of a millimetre between the space shuttle and where we are today. We've just mapped the entire human genome whilst we've been alive. But the existence of all this stuff makes us, as individuals, stop trying. Why do we need to be an interesting person in life? We can just listen to how many so-called friends we've got on Facebook. Why do we worry about achieving things in life when we can become an avatar that rules the virtual world? Oh, come on, all of us. It means nothing. In 9 minutes' time, I'm going to walk off this stage, and I want those watching this to spread the word and make the next few millimeters of civilization brilliant again, so we can kickstart mankind and just make sure that we don't just eat and slob and spectate our way through life and devolve our DNA into a vacuous, amorphous blob of apathetic blandness. There's buckets of science, all right? Literally in the lunch hour, I was reading about a woman called Professor Karen Pine, I think she was called, and she got a statistically significant amount of people that were suffering from anxiety or depression, and she got them to try something for the first time. A menial task, but got them to find out they could do more than they thought they would. 66% of them found out that they felt better. They literally cured themselves by disrupting themselves. They found that they were and felt healthier without a pill or a psychiatrist. And I'm fascinated by this because I was adopted, okay? And I look through life through slightly different eyes, because for the first few months of my life, I was in a different place to a lot of people. And I think maybe we're all starting to lose sight of what amazing machines we are. My existence started 19,000 204 days ago, when my biological father played his only important 2 minutes of his life, okay, in my life. I presume they were happy for him, but he whammed out a couple of million little fish, and one of them, just one of them, happened to just land in an egg that was inside a beautifully brave teenage woman back in 1967. Well, that egg did its doubling thing, and it doubled and doubled and doubled, and sent trillion bits of DNA. It's biology, it's pretty straightforward. Bang! 9 months later, this bald, dribbling, incontinent fool came out into the world. But to bring an illegitimate child into the world in secret in 1967 is no easy task. So this really generous and remarkably brave woman was prepared to avoid probably easier options, and she went full term with me, and she disrupted her own life in ways that we don't really understand by then having me adopted. And perhaps it's because back in 1967, she had a premonition. Born in this part of the world, in this particular time in 67, under these circumstances, statistically, I'd have had a 4% chance to have a drug or alcohol addiction that debilitated my life, a 6% chance of being incarcerated, a 15% chance of being long-term unemployed, and a 1.9% chance of not making it to the age that I am today. But I've not been hooked or incarcerated or unemployed, and I'm even alive to come and bore you with my story today, because I was given a different chance. I didn't consciously make that choice, I was just a few weeks old. But thanks to this wonderfully brave woman, I was adopted into a different family, okay? A married couple who had 2 normal kids of their own, and they couldn't have any more, but they had room in their hearts and in their home for another, so they got me. And these 2 really good role models showed me the way to be. I had the same chance of them. I had the same education, the same values, the same nutrition, the same love. And they did well. Studiously, they did really well at school and passed everything. They were good at sports. Me, less so. I also had an amazing record of not failing a single exam, which is pretty boastful. Didn't take one, absolute truth of it. And I sort of bumbled my way through life. And I was built, I reckon, more for pleasure than performance, okay? But my dad, my adopted dad, said, no, you've got to go to work. And then he kicked me out to work in a good way to see if I could find my way in the work. And I did, because I loved work. I loved it. And at 15 years old, I found my way in the world because I discovered the difference between nature and nurture. Because once the joy of self-discovery is over, once we've mastered bowel control and how to walk and talk, we gradually lose all the wonder that makes us brilliant in the first place. We become risk-adverse. And we basically stop doing things for the first time. We've only got 24 hours in a day. Doctors recommend we sleep for 8.5 of them to make use of the other 15.5. We work of that, on average, 8.5 hours working. We travel 1 hour, 14 minutes. We eat for 47 minutes. I'm told in our country we watch television on average for 217 minutes. That only has left 14 minutes left in a day. I'm a man of a certain age. I need to spend an hour on the loo before I can even get going in the daytime. I've met Steve Jobs. I've dined with 5 prime ministers. I've met the Dalai Lama and actually met a few world leaders and been surrounded by creative talent so remarkable it makes me shudder to think how amazing they are. But in being adopted, I've realised the only thing that makes all of them different to you and me is they've not stopped trying. They've not stopped discovering, and they've not stopped doing things for the first time. The negative power of routine or convention is cancerous because options silt up and doors sort of rust shut because we stop taking risks, we stop disrupting our own potential. You don't have to be adopted to understand that your potential isn't set by convention, because every hour of your life can be a playground of self-discovery as well. And you can beat your own lineage. Because just as this 12 metres represents 6 million years, you can also use it to represent the scale of your own life. And follow me here. Imagine when you were born here and you're whatever age you are now. I'm 48 years old. I might be here halfway through my life. Actually, I might die in an hour's time. It will make for an amazing finale, but I'll be over time. So what I do between now and then is important, right? So here I am. I've just been born by this brave money. I'm crawling, I'm walking, I'm talking. I've got to this point at 5. Why 5? Because I remember that time. It's my first actual memory. I don't remember much before then, but it's so vivid, and I can smell where I was and see where I was because I was so happy. I was in Tesco shopping with my adopted mum, okay? And the only reason I remember it is I insisted at 5 years old on wearing my Spider-Man pyjamas because I believed I actually was Spider-Man. And to this day, I don't think I've ever felt more alive. And then I get to 6 and 10, and I ask about with school, and I fall in love for the first time. I discover that beautiful, exquisite pain of having a heart broken, and then I get a mortgage and debts and a car, and I'm minding the gap, and I'm got a tie, and I'm trying desperately to avoid failure or risk, and it all slows down. Well, stop it. Stop conforming. Stop swiping. Stop following and start participating. Stop delegating progress to the other people. Stop watching cats on YouTube. Stop feigning happiness on a selfie for Facebook when really you're dying inside. Because you need to start living your life rather than spectating it. Try new things for the first time. Try to sketch something. Try to run a mile or just 10 meters or whatever distance you think might be too much for you, so that when you throw yourself into it, you find you can do it after all. And then the next day, you'll go actually and metaphorically a bit further. So then you try harder and find out what being alive is like. Go and talk to a stranger today. Go and adopt a cat. Try cross-dressing. Walk around your house naked. Volunteer, not naked. Read an inspirational blog. Write an inspirational blog. But ask yourself, today, right now, when was the last time that you did something for the first time? Not you. Go to work tomorrow and do things in half the time to twice the standard and grow your brain and amaze your colleagues, especially if it's a menial task, because they will find an energy that wasn't there before because you brought it to them. And you will inspire them and they will feed off you, but you will feast off them. And that's what being alive's about. You should defy your own stereotype. And it doesn't matter if you're lucky enough to be here on the age scale at 18 or if you've made it to here and you're 80. Because as the film said, there might be no time like the present, but much more importantly, there's no present like the time. And we're throwing that present away by the month load, and you can't get it out of the recycling bin because it's gone. I've had some success in life. I've had a lot more failures, some spectacular failures. But to live every day looking for the good that's found in each of them is marvellous. This simple switch that you can turn on inside yourself to disrupt your own choices is empowering. And even if you learn the hard way that maybe third-year boys shouldn't really ask out fifth-year-old girls, do you know what? Like me, you'll lamb butter side up, you'll be fine, and you'd be amazed how you can beat your own DNA. As I say, I was adopted down south into a Sussex family. And I grew up and had a lovely life, and I knew I was adopted, but it helped rather than hindered me, okay? I just had a perfectly fine outlook in life. But my job had taken me to every continent, and I lived in 20 countries. But when I was about here, at about 32, I happened to move to Scotland, to Edinburgh, actually. First time I'd ever properly been up here. And I was bouncing my way through life from one discovery to another when I found out that my natural mother was not only alive and very much well, but she lived, by coincidence, 11 miles from me in Longniddry. That's where the story ends. I didn't marry my sister or anything freakish like that. It's not Motherwell. But I did, for the first time, meet my mum. And I was able to hold my kin for the first time and thank her for being so magnificently brave. Because her selfless act allowed me to realise that it's not nature nor nurture that defines us. It's what use you make of the both of them. And you can travel to the end of your life by eating beige food and watching EastEnders and buying more stuff that you didn't know you didn't need and pinching and swiping little angry birds and throwing them at laughing green pigs. And you can go to bed not knowing anything more about yourself than when you first woke up. Or you can change the way that you live by living every day as if you were still 5 years old in your Spider-Man jammers, believing you're Spider-Man. Because that is what living is all about. Disrupting your own life's apathetic momentum is the most exciting and liberating and empowering thing that you can ever do. And if you don't think it's for you, if you're watching me going, yeah, interesting, I'll see if they do it, it's for you. It's you that needs to participate because you'll benefit from it most. Today, you need to do something for the first time. And no matter how small it is, your parents may well have deliberately chosen each other to concoct a chemistry of DNA to create a world leader. Or your parents might have come together because they didn't know about contraception. But by whatever route your DNA was derived at, go and put it to better use. Go and leave here today and make the most of your chances by disrupting your own future. The best example of that is not only in this theatre amongst us all, it's actually in the theatre in a row over there. Because she's my mum. And I want to tell you that I'm so grateful from here until there that you did what you did. So rock on, Mum. Thank you.